If you're building a magic system from scratch and you have no idea where to start, this video is for you. And if you already have a magic system, but something's feeling a little bit off about it, maybe it's too overpowered, or maybe it's not tied to your world properly, this video is also for you. If you're new here, my name is Rita, and I'm an aspiring fantasy author. I'm currently working on a novel that's loosely based on Mulan. I also have a degree in English literature, so I've spent a genuinely embarrassing amount of time thinking through all of this stuff. And today, I want to walk you through the process of how to create a magic system step by step, and I want to walk you through it in a way that actually saves you time rather than adding to your procrastination pile. So we're going to go through 6 steps. We're going to talk about soft versus hard magic. We're going to talk about Brandon Sanderson's laws of magic. We're going to cover rules, costs, limitations, all of that fun stuff. And I also wrote an in-depth version of this on my blog. So if you want to go read through that and follow through with the examples while you're building your own magic system, I'm going to link that in the description below. Okay, let's get into it. So before you make a single rule about how your magic system works, I want you to figure out why it exists in your world in the first place. And I don't mean the in-universe mythology of it. I mean, what role is it playing in your story and your world? So is the magic the reason wars are fought? Is it something people are born into that they didn't ask for and can't really escape? Is it banned? Is it worshipped? Is it bought and sold like a commodity? Because the answer to that question is going to shape everything else. So who gets to use it, what it costs them, how other people treat them, all of it. I'm going to give you an example from Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, and I just want to let you know that there's obviously not going to be any spoilers here, so if you haven't read it yet, don't worry. So in Mistborn, the magic is tied to ingesting metals, and it's very systematic, almost industrial feeling. And that is completely intentional because it fits the tone of the whole world. It doesn't get dropped in from the outside. It grew out of the world that Sanderson was building. And that's what you're going for. So before you touch the mechanics or rules or powers of your magic system, write one sentence about why magic exists in your world in the first place. Just one, and it's going to anchor everything else. Okay, now let's talk about the types of magic. So there are basically 2 types of magic systems, and knowing which one you're writing changes how you use magic throughout your whole story. So the first one is hard magic. So hard magic has rules. The reader understands how it works, what it costs, what it can and can't do. So when your character uses magic to get out of a bad situation, it feels like it's earned because you already showed the reader that that was possible. So again, if I give the example of Mistborn, Mistborn is hard magic. The reader is never confused about what's happening or why it worked. Now, if we look at soft magic, think about Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. It's ancient, it's mysterious. There's not really a rule book for it, which is wonderful for atmosphere and for making the world feel big. But the trade-off is that you can't lean on it to solve your plot problems because the reader hasn't been given enough information to find it satisfying. So if Gandalf had just, magicked the ring into Mount Doom, it wouldn't have been a story. So most magic actually lands somewhere between the two, and that's totally fine. So you might have hard rules for how your protagonist's magic works, and you might have soft rules for your villain's powers, and you keep them deliberately vague and threatening. What matters most is that you're making this choice on purpose, and it's not just by accident because it really does change how you write your scenes. So speaking of Brandon Sanderson, and I know that I'm bringing him up a lot, and it's only because he's kind of a genius at creating magic systems. And just for the record, I don't agree with everything that he says, but on this, he absolutely nailed it, okay? So he wrote down 3 laws of magic that are genuinely worth knowing. The first one is that your ability to use magic to solve problems is directly tied to how well your reader already understands it. So if you reveal a brand new power right at the climax to save the day, that doesn't read as like a cool twist. It kind of reads as cheating. So the reader has to have seen what your magic can do before you ask them to accept it doing something plot critical. The second law is that limitations matter more than powers, which I know sounds backwards, but it makes total sense when you think about it. So a fire mage who can incinerate anything isn't that interesting. But if you have a fire mage who can only call fire when she's genuinely uncontrollably furious and who essentially loses herself a little bit every time she does, Now you have a character with a real problem that bleeds into every relationship that she has. So the limitation is doing all of the work there. And then the third rule of magic is go deeper on what you already have before you add something new. So if your character can control temperature, let's say, really think through what that means. So maybe they can freeze locks until they're brittle, or maybe they can create a steam cloud for cover, or maybe they can warm someone who's going into shock. So that's a full toolkit from a single concept, and it's way more interesting than stacking 5 different abilities that never get properly explored. If you didn't have time to take notes on this, don't worry, I've laid them all out in the blog post that's linked in the description below. Okay, now we're going to talk about the rules, costs, and limitations of magic. So magic with no limits, it's essentially just a cheat code, and a cheat code just kills the tension because your reader stops worrying about your characters. So you need to nail down 3 things. The first is who can use magic. Is it hereditary? Is it random? Is it something that you can study your way into? This has huge implications for your world and your characters, so don't gloss over it. The second is what does it cost? And I want to push you a little here because physical exhaustion is the default answer, which is fine and totally acceptable, but in my opinion, it's a little bit overused. So try to give it a bit of a twist, like what if using magic costs a memory instead? Or what if it ages you? Or what if it slowly makes you less able to feel normal human emotions? So yeah, really think about how you can give the cost of magic a little bit of a twist. And third is what can your magic not do? So make yourself a short list and stick to it because this is actually where your plot conflicts come from. The best scenes are usually the ones where a character is right up against the edges of what they're capable of and has to find another way through. So give them some edges. The next thing is root your magic system in your world. So magic that isn't tied to your world and your environment is going to feel fake, and readers will feel that even if they can't articulate why. So it needs to actually be part of the world's fabric. Think about what magic does to power structures. If certain bloodlines have it and others don't, you already have a class system and centuries of resentment built in. If it's learnable, who controls access to the education? Who gets excluded? Magic that touches economics, politics, religion, and daily life feels real in a way that magic that only shows up during fight scenes just doesn't. So now I'm going to give you another example, not of Brandon Sanderson actually. It's going to be of N.K. Jemisin, and she's basically an award-winning fantasy author who wrote the Broken Earth series, which is an incredible series. You should go read it if you haven't already. But again, the example I'm going to give is not going to give away any spoilers. So in Jemisin's The Fifth Season, which is the first book in the series, the magic in that book is about controlling seismic activity in a world that's geologically catastrophic. So it's not decorative. The magic is used for survival in that world. So the magic and the world are completely inseparable from each other. A really useful question to ask is, what does life look like for someone in your world who has no magic at all? How do they feel about the people who do? What are they left out of because they don't have magic? Because that friction, that inequality or fear or resentment, that's where a lot of your story's texture comes from. And it's all downstream of your magic system being grounded. Now, before I go into the last step, I just want to mention that if you want a proper place to work through all of this, I have 2 options depending on how you like to work. If you're a pen and paper or PDF kind of person, I have a very simple magic systems and artifacts workbook that has guided prompts and structured space to build everything out. And if you're more of a digital, everything connected kind of person, I also have a Notion world building template that has the same prompts as the PDF, but built as a full database system. So what that means is that your magic links up with your characters, your locations, your culture, your plot, everything talks to each other, and it's essentially one mega world building Bible. So both of those are going to be linked in the description below if you're interested to check them out. The final step for building your magic system is making it your own. You can obviously draw inspiration from other magic systems. At this point, I just don't think it's even possible to come up with something 100% unique, but make sure you give it your own twist. You don't need to reinvent everything from scratch. You just need one genuinely specific, maybe even weird detail that makes it your own. Something that someone couldn't have gotten anywhere else. It could be the source that your magic is drawn from. It can be a specific rule you came up with. Whatever it is, it should feel like it can only exist in your world. So that's the full 6 steps. You can totally walk through all of this today. You just need a little bit of time and the willingness to sit with the questions for a bit. Again, the full written version with a bunch of examples is on the blog, which is going to be linked in the description below. And it's worth having open if you're actively building something. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want the structured workbook version with guided prompts, or you're interested in the full world building Bible that has magic systems, cultures, characters, locations, even fantasy creatures, plot, all of that linked together, those are both going to be linked in the description below as well. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe to my channel. I post about fantasy writing and world building pretty regularly, or I try to. Also, please let me know in the comments below what your magic system looks like and what struggles you're having right now when you're creating it. I respond to each comment. Good luck with your magic system, and I'll see you next time. Bye.